GLS, the Great Lake Region Conference out of Niles, Michigan.
All right, all right. Well, I got a question for you. Man, can you tell us a little something about your experience with Pathfindering?
Oh my. Um, Pathfindering, having club meetings every other weekend, camping out in the back of the church, having winter camp at the lodge, doing our knots. That was the most challenging of all Pathfinder requirements, the knots. But I have to give it to Director Jackson. He helped us out tremendously, and we got through it.
All right, all right. And I want to share with you guys, she's one of the most humble people I know. She's not going to tell you that she is one of our valued directors. When we look for the gold standard of directors, I look at her because she does a phenomenal job. And I want to point out to everyone tonight, it would be impossible for us to get honor certificates to you guys had it not been for her and her dedication. She doesn't work by herself, but she works with a tremendous team that she has helped us to put together to make sure you get your honor certificates. And so, I want us to just give a very big thank you to Professor Manissi for the amazing job that she does. The last question I have for you tonight is, can you tell us why you like bats? Why you went to teaching this honor?
Well, I was interested in bats because um, I wondered why God created them. And it was such a scary creature for me. And I, for years, I've had I believe the myths about bats, and the myths are gone. And that's what I want to do tonight. I want to erase the myths. We're going to have a great time.
All right. So as we prepare to start, and just before I pray for you, I want to let you guys know why I like tonight's honor. I was sitting in my first church about 5 or 6 years ago, and I remember while I was leading a board meeting in the sanctuary, I saw someone run past the door, and I went to the sanctuary door, and behold, I saw a bat fluttering. Never saw a bat in my life. Only thought that bats existed in caves, but I saw that bat fluttering around, and that was the third time I caught a bat in that church. I don't pass that church, thank God, anymore. But I realized I don't have to be scared of it. It's one of God's animals, and you guys will get a chance to hear some amazing things. So my interest is piqued. Let's go ahead and let's pray for Professor Manissi and her team tonight. Father in heaven, we thank you for Professor Manissi tonight. We thank you for Maya, and we thank you for the amazing lesson we're going to learn tonight. Bless us, bless our listeners, and Father, may we appreciate your creation even more. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Professor, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, boys and girls. I am excited to be here this evening to talk to you about bats. I used to be so afraid of bats, but that's because I didn't know anything about the bats. And so this study has really opened my eyes to all the things that I thought I knew about bats. Not true. So let's get started. So our first question is, when I pull my slides down, ready for my slides, guys. Why are bats classified as mammals and not birds? So before I go to that, my title is To Bat or Not to Bat? That's the question. So as I looked at this thing, I thought to myself, why did God create the bat? What was the purpose of the bat? And I know that Genesis 1:25 says that he created the beasts of the fields, and he said that everything was good. But I still couldn't figure out, why did God create the bats? So we're going to go to our next slide. The bat is not what you think it is. It's really quite friendly of an animal. Next slide. The bat is a mammal. It is a mammal like the lion, like the elephant, like the tiger and the rhinoceros. It has fur. It has babies. It nurses its babies. They're warm-blooded, and they have toes and feet. They have hands. Next slide. And as a mammal, the mammals all have a lot of things in common. Next slide. Even as the bird flies. The bird has feathers. It doesn't have fur. They hatch eggs. They do feed their babies. They have wings, but they don't have hands and fingers. But there's one main character. Go ahead. Next slide. There's one main characteristic that separates bats from all other mammals. And I want to see if you can tell me what that one characteristic is in the chat. We're going to have a bat chat right now. Tell me in the chat. Ah, we got some sharp people here tonight. They can, yes, they can fly. They can fly. They have wingspan. They can fly, you bet. Next slide. They can fly. That is the one main characteristic that separates bats from all other mammals. You see, the elephant can't fly. The tiger can't fly. Next slide. The rhinoceros can't fly, but bats can fly. And the interesting thing that I found about bats was that they can fly 50 miles an hour. They can fly 3,000 feet above the ground, and they can locate insects, other bats through the echolation for those that have echolation skills. So as we move on, the bat was an interesting character, a lot of interesting animal. Next slide. Many people think that the bat is a dangerous mammal, but it isn't. There are two types of bats. There's the microbat, the real little teeny tiny one, and then there's the megabat, the big bat. Microbats you can hold the microbat in your hand. Microbats, they have a purpose for their existence. Their purpose is different than the megabat. The megabat, even though this bat looks eerie, it looks like it's dangerous, but it isn't. Bats have been known to be very friendly. One fact that I learned about bats was that bats, the purpose for a bat is to pollinate. And I was like, pollinate? Pollinate means it's feeding other plants, it's feeding, it's making other things grow. And I was astounded to find out that one of the purposes of a bat is to pollinate the area in which it is. Next slide. Now we're going to look at a quick video, and it's entitled Fun Facts About Bats. And I want you to pay close attention to the video because there's a question I want to ask you after Maya drops that video. Fun facts of the zoo. There were a lot of interesting facts that were shared in that video. So I want you to go to the chat and I want you to list one fact that stood out, that connected with you. You've got 30 seconds. Let's see what you thought. Let's see what you learned. Let's see what stayed in your mind after watching the video. Good, good, yep. The bumblebee bat is the smallest. Bats eat cow, yes, they eat cow blood. They can have up to 5 babies. Bats pollinate. Yes, they can have 1 baby a year. Bat babies are called pups, yes. The smallest bat weighs as much as a dime. Good. There was a lot of good listening going on. Yes, parents can find their babies among 500 bats. That's amazing. That is amazing. Largest bat is 2 pounds. The largest bat in the world has a wingspan of 6 feet. When hibernating, their hearts beat 11 times per minute. Bats are mammals. They really live between 20 to 40 years. 2 million bats were in a cave. Excellent. Okay, great. I'll have my slides back now. Good listening. Great listening. So we're going to move on to our next slide. You guys did a great job paying attention. Next slide into the video. So now we're going to talk about the suborder of bats. Now we looked at the Microchiroptera and we looked at the Megachiroptera. Micro meaning small, mega meaning big. in our video, it talked about the Microchiroptera bat and how the Microchiroptera bat possess echolocation, whereas the Megachiroptera bat can see. That's the difference. The Microchiroptera bat, they live on fruits. They like mangoes. They like bananas. I'll go on to the next slide. They like guava. They like, sounds like a lot, they have a lot of good taste. They like cashews and bananas. The Chiroptera is literally means hand wing. So you saw in the video just how far reaching a bat can stretch. And that wingspan sometimes can really go 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet. I think, and this is a small bat, so its wing isn't gonna go that far, but look how it's webbed. Look at its legs. Look at the toes and the toes, because the fingers are attached to the arms. The body is very furry, very furry. This bat, it came from, the bats are in the order of the Chiroptera, which literally means hand wing. The name makes sense because a bat's wings stretch over the forearm and the fingers, and they attach down at the ankles. So it's just a complete wing that goes all the way around, comes on, it's just total connection, total connectivity for this mammal, so that when he's flying, that's why he has so much strength and durability, because it's of the strength in the wing and the fact that it's connected. There are no feathers, it's just all wing. Next slide. What are the smallest bats? The smallest bat is the kitty hognose bat. It's about the size of a bumblebee, weighs less than a penny, and a wingspan of less than 5 inches. Next slide. The largest bat, as they talked about, is the flying fox. They have on record one flying fox being at least 5 feet 7 inches. And that's as tall as some of you boys and girls. Can you imagine standing next to a creature that can fly and spread their wings like this and then land and hang and be as tall as you are? The Indian flying fox in particular has been known to attain a wide wingspan of 6 feet. Next slide. Talked about the diet of the diet of the microbat, and we talked about the diet of the megabat. They all like fruit, whether they're a microbat or a megabat. They love the fruit, they like the fruit, but your microbats tend to dine more on their insects, and then certain microbats, as they mentioned, the vampire bat will suck blood for food. How many babies? Next slide. Before I get to that, I'm going to point to the anatomy of the bat, and I want you in the chat, I want you to name the anatomy part of the bat part that I point to right in the chat, and let's see if you get it right. Okay. What am I pointing to right now? Let me know in the chat. Tell me. What am I pointing to at this particular time? The wing, that is correct. What am I pointing at to right now? What is this? Those are the toes. What about here? What is this? Do you know what this is right here? No, it's not an ear. It's not a wing. Can you see? I'm pointing right here where this line is. What is this? I'll give you a hint. It's the bat tail. It's the bat tail. What about right up here? What would this be? This is a finger. This is a finger. This is a finger. What do you think this is? Look at our words down here. What do you think this would be? The thumb. You're right. You're exactly right. What about right here? What are these? I'm pointing right here. See my arrow? I'm pointing right here. What are these? I'm pointing at the ears.
Director.
Yes.
We cannot see your pointer.
Here's my pointer. Everyone see my pointer?
No.
You can't see my pointer?
No.
Oh my.
Presenting the presentation show.
Okay, well, we'll move on. We'll move on to the next slide, and you'll be able to see all the parts of the bat. So we'll have the next slide. So here we go. These are the parts of the bat. You can see, you see the thumb, the eyes, the ears. This is the nose, the wings. These are your fingers here, your feet, and the tail. Next slide. All right, right now we're going to take a little brain break, and I want everyone to participate. So you got to get up, you're going to do some stretching, you need to find a partner. This is going to be great fun. I'm even going to get up. I'm going to take a brain break also. Let's hit it, Maya. Let's take a brain break. Let's go back to our slides. We were looking at the parts of a bat. And let's see, where are we at? Next slide. How did you like that? Wasn't that exhilarating? Get some of the blood moving. Okay, let's get back to get busy to what we were talking about. Now we want to talk about how many different types of bats are there worldwide. And I think in the video it talked about at least 1,200 species, but here approximately 1,000 species of bats in the world, and bats live on every continent except Antarctica. There are approximately 825 species of the Microchiroptera worldwide and about 175 species of the Megachiroptera. Wow. Next slide. Bat fact chat number 2. The bat fact check, something that you have learned so far about large bats and small bats that you didn't know. You have 30 seconds. Bat fact check, something that you have learned in the chat section about large bats, the bat, and the microbat. 30 seconds. Time's ticking. Their name is Chiroptera. I always get that tongue-tight feeling when I say that word, yes. The biggest wingspan is larger than me, yes. A bat can be as tall as I am, yes. How are they different? They're different in size, they're different in strength, they're different in the way that they can know where they're going. One can see, one moves around by echolocation. They can weigh as much as the grams. Very good. Next slide. They love fruit. How many of you love fruit? I love fruit. Mangoes, guavas, bananas, they're all watermelon. These are types of fruit that the bats like. Now, isn't that odd? And we've talked about the 2 suborders, so we're going to move on from this slide on to the next slide. The megabat use eyesight things. They're a big bat. They're a huge bat. But the microbat uses echolocation, as I said. They send out sound, and the sound bounces back and forth until they find either the object that they're looking for or the location or where they're trying to go. It's interesting. They use this echolocation to navigate in the dark and find food. Next slide. And here we have, we see our bats feasting on their delights from nature. Fruit, bananas, watermelon. It looks like they all like fruit. Next slide. Oh, aren't they cute? The little bat babies. How many babies does a bat have each year, and what are the babies called? Tell me. I know it was in the video. Who can tell me what the babies are called, right? Pups, yes, pups. They're called pups. Good job. And it depends on the bat and how many babies, how many pups, next slide, that a bat mama can have. Each female bat has only one baby or pup at a time, but some bats can have twins, as we learned earlier. Some bats can have 3 and 4 babies. Some bats can have babies twice a year. Most bat colonies contain a minimum of perhaps 40 female bats, which means at least 40 babies. But each bat knows where their babies are. That means you could end up with the stench of 40 or more dying animals in your house if you have a bat colony living in your house. So it's always good to be in touch with your community, animal control, so you can keep a handle on things. Next slide. The Bible tells us about bats. Now, we know we're living in the COVID time right now, and it has been said that we received this COVID-19 pandemic from bats. I don't know how true that is. I've never sat down and researched all of that myself. I do know that in the Asian countries, they have what are called wet markets, where you can go and you can purchase meat that is, some of the meat is alive in water. You purchase it right then. And I guess they mean for you to believe that it's fresh. But our Bible tells us certain things that we're supposed to use as food. And see, the bat wasn't placed on earth to be eaten by mankind. The bat had a specific duty to be used on this earth. And Leviticus 11:19 lets us know the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat are all unclean animals, and you should not eat them. Deuteronomy 14:18, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopie, I can't believe I'm messing this up, the hoopoe, and the bat. Isaiah 2:20, in that day men will throw away to the rodents and bats their idols of silver and idols of gold, which they made to worship. So bats, we begin to see clearly, the bats aren't supposed to be used for our enjoyment, for our body, for our body to be used, to be put inside our body. And Isaiah 2:20, in that day men will throw away to the rodents and bats their idols. This is an end time prophecy. I'm not sure if bats are even supposed to be pets. Bats were put on the earth for a certain reason. And as mankind, we should allow them to fulfill that need. Now, I do know that there are bat farms. There are places where people take care of bats that are injured. They take them and they put them in their homes. There's a video at the end of this presentation that will show you all of these things. Next slide. But I'm not sure if mankind was really supposed to interact with bats as closely as some people do. Do bats hibernate or migrate for the winter? They do both. Some bats migrate, some bats hibernate. It all depends. It all depends on where they are, which continent they live in. I know that bats for sure don't care for cold weather. But in Michigan, you can find bats. Next slide, as we will see soon. How many insects can a bat eat in an hour? Well, if they're hibernating, they're not eating anything. But if they're out and about, they can eat 600 to 1,000 insects per hour, depending on how big they are. That's a lot. A single bat can eat 1,200 insects per hour. So if you're a microbat, the echolocation helps you tremendously to locate your food. The echo bounces back and forth. So when the bat uses this echolocation, he's seeking, and when the echo bounces back to him, he can fly directly to where that small fish or where that insect is, in order to find their food. The next slide. What are two main benefits bats provide for man? And see, this was something that I loved learning. They eat insects because some insects are harmful. So bats will eat things like the cockroaches and the mosquitoes and the gnats. Large colonies of bats can consume many insects that would otherwise harm farmers' crops. They help to pollinate and spread seeds, as I said earlier. Bats serve as food plant pollinators. They feed old bats. They help man to the dung of the bat is used as fertilizer to cut down on the use of pesticides. They provide outlet for medical research. Their echolocation skills have been studied to help medical professionals help the blind. A chemical agent in the saliva of the common vampire bat, the draculin, is being tested for use in helping stroke victims. Isn't that interesting? I found that to be interesting. Next slide. All right. Now this is the greatest part of our whole presentation this evening, the tray show. So I'm going to let Maya take you right now to this short video entitled The Tray Show. Take it away, Maya. The home of Notre Dame, where you'll be invited to join the Trey Show, where Trey is interviewing two Pathfinders for Life regarding their personal encounters with bats. Take it away, Trey.
Good evening and welcome to the Trey Show. Today our topic of discussion centers around bat encounters. Our guests come from the Rising Stars Pathfinder Club of the Niles, Philadelphia SDA Church in Niles, Michigan. We'll be hearing firsthand bat encounters from Pathfinders for Life, Maya and David.
Hello, I'm David.
Hello, I'm Maya.
Hello there, David and Maya. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to hear about your experience with bats. Let's start with you, Maya. What experience did you have that you would like to share with the audience today?
Thanks for having me, Trey. I'm so glad to be able to share with everyone. Well, it was a Wednesday evening of the week before Oshkosh. We were preparing to get supplies and equipment set aside for Oshkosh. We had to go up into the attic of the church. My big sister Imani was leading the group. We all took our flashlights with us because the attic bulb had burned out. As we were going through the equipment, our lights were moving about the attic when suddenly my sister yelled, "Is that a bat?" We all turned to see where her light was shining. And yes, it was a bat. The bat was either in hibernation or it was dead. But it was still hanging upside down. When gravity have allowed us to please me to believe that the bat was still a living creature. Of course, it was a microbat, but to be honest, we didn't stick around very long to figure all that out. We were heading for the stairs when suddenly we saw one of the bats awaken.
Oh, shut up. Were you guys scared?
Yes, what do you think? The first.
Whew, almost gave me a heart attack with that. Thank you for that account, Maya. That was close. Now, we'll switch to our next guest. David, what experience did you have?
Dude, on Saturday night before leaving for Oshkosh, we were packing our Oshkosh gear, right? To get ready to get into the campers to get ready to go. We had finished our week prayer session with the elders, and then the instructors decided to order pizza. A little while later, I went outside with my grandpa to see if the pizza man had arrived, when all of a sudden these bats flew out of the old chimney of the church. I mean, the whole chimney of them. I froze in my steps because I was amazed at first not to see only one microbat, but dozens of them shooting straight out of an old chimney into the moonlit sky. It was a sight to see, and I said to my grandpa, "Did you see that?" He was just as surprised as I was. My grandpa is a farmer, but he had never seen a colony of bats before either. That is my story.
Thank you, David and Maya, for sharing primary accounts with our audience today regarding your bat encounters.
You're welcome.
Well, there. So we really should find them in Michigan. Thanks, Director Menacee, for sharing the time with me. Now, back to you.
Thank you, Trey and Maya and David for sharing those encounters with us. And as we go to the last few slides, what I want us to go away with, now you're gonna have to build or purchase a bat box and know how the best place to put it or install it as part of your assignment. Now this is a drawing of basically what it should look like and the dimensions that you should use and how it should be put together. There are other bat house drawings and patterns online. Now, what your assignment is, in order for you to earn a complete honor with this, to earn a patch for having completed this honor, you're going to build or purchase a bat box and know the best place to put it and install it at a home, church, or your school. You are going to record for 3 months what kind and how many bats have made it their home. Now, don't be surprised if no bats show up, but at least you tried. I remember last year when we were doing bird watching, we had the friend class had to watch birds for 7 days. So they put their bird box out, they put their bird feed out, and every day when they went to watch for birds, no birds came. No birds came that week. So if bats don't come, don't be alarmed. Maybe the weather's not right, maybe it's not the right time of year, but at least you made an effort to complete the honor to gain your full credit. Next slide. So our almost to the final slide is some advice from a bat. When you're around the bat, trust your senses. When you're around your friends, trust your senses. Spend time just hanging around with friends. Don't hang upside down like the bats do. Hang right side up and use your good senses and get a grip. Get a grip. Next slide. This is an excellent video. It's entitled The Flying Fox Fairy Tale. It is a documentary on flying foxes, bats. It will show you a farm where there is a bat keeper who has an insatiable love for bats. She takes the bats in her house if they're injured. It was just a really nice video to watch. You watch it on your own. It's a lengthy video. It's about 40 minutes, but you will gain a great insight into flying fox bats. And if you can look at the map above, you'll see the reddish indication there in the map. That's where you'll find many flying fox bats. Next slide. Now, I believe that slide is going to bring us to the end of our presentation. It's been great talking to you about bats. I hope you learned a thing or two about bats, and I'm sure you have some questions, and so we'll take a few questions right now. Core E, back to you.
All right, so Professor Ramona, we have a few good, excellent questions for you. So here we go. One asked if you know, what is a hoopie?
What is a hoopie? A hoopie is a kind of, oh, that's a good question. A hoopie is, that's what the Bible said that we weren't supposed to eat, right? Well, let's look that up. Hoopies, those birds. So it's a beautiful bird. They're a colorful bird found across Africa, Asia, and Europe. 3 living and 1 extinct species. They're a beautiful bird, but it is a bird that we are not supposed to eat.
All right. Alan asks a really interesting, because he has 2 questions, and one is a theological one. Do bats have hollowed bones? And the second question, On what day of creation were they created?
Bats. The thing about the bat's bones is that the reason why bats can't stand right side up is because their body is so heavy and their bones aren't strong enough to hold them up. I would not say their bones are hollow. I would say that their bones are not strong enough to hold their body up like a bird would. And so that's why they hang upside down, they walk upside down, they do everything upside down because of the strength of their bones. Now, I'd have to look into that question to find out whether or not their bones are actually hollow or not. So that's a good Google search for you. Now, your second question was, what was it again?
What day of creation were they created?
I believe that the beasts of the field were created on the 5th day of the week. But let me check.
The beasts of the land were created the 6th day.
The 6th day?
Yes.
And-
The flying animals and the sea creatures were created the 5th day. So I'm guessing they're wondering because bats are mammals, but yet they're flying creatures.
Bats are mammals, so they would be on the 6th day because they're a mammal. They're not a bird, but they can fly. Squirrels don't fly, they glide, but a bat actually takes flight. So I would say 6th day.
That's a good debate because I would say it's the 5th day because in Leviticus, they're characterized with the beast of the air. So it would be a beast of the air. Well, but that's not it's a semantic question.
I'll research that to give you something to read tonight. Thanks. Thanks for that question.
Yes,
Next
it's a nice one. I like that one. Karina asks, can bats be poisonous?
I did not read that anywhere. And I looked for that because that is a myth that bats can be poisonous to touch. I think they're poisonous to eat. And that's why God said, do not eat them. But I think if you touch a bat, I don't think that there's anything poisonous about it. Now, if you'll watch that last video that I had on the screen, it goes in and it shows you people are handling the bats. The bats are crawling all over their backs in the house, crawling everywhere. And that made me believe that there isn't any kind of poisonous excretion coming from a bat. But I think that the bat was not fit for man to eat. And that in and of itself, when we intake or partake of that and put that in our body, it could not be for the best thing for us to do. And that's why I would say it would be poisonous to eat as opposed to touch.
Somebody asked, why do bats fly only at night?
Bats fly only at night because it is a nocturnal creature. That's how God made it. God made it to fly at night. God made it to be awake at night. And nocturnal means night, where even your owl, some of your owls don't even move around during the day. Most owls are nocturnal, and nocturnal means at night.
Samuel asks a question related to that. As they are nocturnal, are they harmed by bright light like sunlight?
I don't know if they are harmed by the sunlight as opposed to they can't function in certain light. They're made to function at a certain amount of light, and that's what they do. So you're not going to see any bats during the daytime. So I went back to the church that the Pathfinders were talking about, our church, and I kind of waited to see if the bats would come out during the day. And no bats came out. At dusk, that's when the bats came out. So being a nocturnal, they have a sense of when it's getting to be dark. It's something in them, and they know when to come out. So I don't believe that you're going to find many bats out during the daytime.
All right. Samuel asks, you mentioned that we should not have bats as pets, and they weren't created to be that. But can you legally have a bat as a pet? Is that allowed, at least in our country?
In my research, I didn't run across people having bats for pets. Bats are what you would call an exotic pet. And there are certain laws for exotic pets. And so I believe that you would have to check with, in your area, the zone rules or the laws as to what kind of pets you can house. I know that there are some people who have pets like snakes, long snakes, python snakes, and I'm not sure if they had permission to bring those animals into that particular community. So I think you would have to look at your zoning rules and laws. You'd have to look at, does the area in which you live allow for exotic pets? And if they do, hey, have at it.
All right. Chelsea asks, why do certain bats drink blood?
Because they are known to be vampire bats. And vampire bats are the only bats that drink blood, the vampire bat. That's the only one. All the other bats, they eat fruit. If it's a mega bat, they're going to eat the fruit and the fish and little birds. But the vampire bat was made to do what he does, or what she does, and that is to suck blood.
Do you know what they gain from the drinking of blood?
Well, it is their food. That's their food. That's just like, they may eat a fruit, but they thrive on the blood, and that's what they like. And so that's what they eat. That's their main food is blood. I found that to be, I was like, oh my goodness, they don't want fruit as a delicacy. They don't want the fish. They want cow's blood, and that's what they want. So for some reason, that's how God made them. So like,
All right. Layla asks, we have all heard the saying, blind as a bat. How blind are bats?
Well, as I explained earlier, echolocation is what makes a microbat see. Other than that, they're blind. They can't see. They were not made to see. They were made to use the echolocation skill to locate whatever they need, to locate wherever they needed to go. But the megabat can see. The megabat is not a blind bat. It's the little bat that's the blind bat. A megabat does not have echolocation. Only the microbat has echolocation. And those are your blind bats.
All right. Justin asks, does the length of a bat wing help them have control during flight, or does it just help them fly?
The wingspan is what gives it its maneuverability. It can maneuver a whole lot faster and quicker than a bird. And I was like, a bird is built to fly. A bird is supposed to fly. And when I read that, and I was like, the bat is a skilled animal. God created the bat with so many interesting characteristics that we just don't even know. So when a bat takes flight, because their wings are so much stronger than a bird's wings. Bird's wings are built on out of feathers, but a bat's wing is a webbed wing that's webbed to its body. If you look at a bird's wings, the bird's wings are not connected to its body. It's separate. But a bat gets its strength because it's just all one unit. So when it takes off, that's why it can fly so far, and that's why it can have such long endurance from one location to the next. And maneuvering, if you watch a bat, if you take a movie and watch a bat move, he's smooth, he's precise. When he locates something, he doesn't play around going to get it. Bam, he's right there. Especially with the echolocation, it tells them exactly where to go, and that's what they do.
All right. Now some people, since we talked about vampire bats, some people are now asking, if you are bitten by a vampire bat, will you die, or what should you do?
And see, that was another myth. That was another myth that bats are dangerous. They attack people. You know what I found out? Bats will not attack a human. Bats will not attack you. They will not get tangled all up in your hair like some people are thinking. They don't do that. They just don't do it. And so when I watched the last video, I saw how kind they were with the lady. She was handling them, and how they're just looking for kindness. They were never wild. They were never dangerous in any way. I was awed at that because it is not what I expected a bat to do. I expected the bats to be scratching at her, but they were calm. They were walking around. You have really got to see that last video that I put in the slides. So a bat is not going to attack you because it's not what they do. And in order to drink your blood, they have to attack you, and it is not what they do, and they are not going to do it.
All right. So Amos asked a really relevant to what we just asked. He says, then why did bats get such a bad rap? Why do people hate them so much when they're actually naturally gentle?
And that goes, Amos, that goes along with learning, education. It's a what you would call a stereotype. A lot of times in life, we stereotype all kinds of things. We stereotype movies. We stereotype recreation. We stereotype people. And look at that. We stereotype the bat. I thought the bat was a horrible creature until I did the study and found out that they're not. So it would do us to research and learn about things before we come to conclusions about things, so that we can have the right point of view. Yet I would agree with you, bats have gotten a bad rap. You got Batman, you got Batwoman, you've got vampires. I tell you, all of my myths went down the drain after my study on bats.
All right. Let's see. So yeah, a lot of them are asking the same thing. We just covered that. So bats are naturally gentle. We did mention that we do not have the 100% facts that if bats started corona. So that may potentially be a myth, or but we're waiting for the evidence to come out. Daniel asks, does echolocation work better at night?
Well, that's when bats are out. That's when they use it. And because they're blind, they're searching for their food. Now, mosquitoes are out at night, okay, and flies are out too. So when the bats come out, they're gonna get them. Remember, bats can eat. Oh my goodness, what? 1,200 insects in an hour, 1,600 insects in an hour. So, hey, send me some bats. I live out in the country. Eat some of these mosquitoes up in the summer, okay? And with that giant hornet that's out here in America now, I hope some bats get to them. I do. So bats just naturally know with their echolocation where to find the insects to eat at night. That's just how they're made.
All right. Rebecca says, is it illegal to kill bats?
In my studies, in some parts of the world, bats is a form of food. So when you go down into the jungle areas on some of our continents, it's a delicacy. So it isn't illegal there. It is what they do. In our continent of the United States and Canada, I did not read where it was illegal to kill bats. But what I did read is that if you have a bat colony near your home, you don't want that bat colony there. The best thing to do is to call animal control so that they can move them to another location. You don't ever want to go out and just start shooting bats for sport or any animal, because the Ten Commandments do say thou shalt not kill. So if the bat is not harming you or causing harm to you or your brother or your sister or your baby cousin, the best thing to do, and if you're not sure about that bat, is to move out of the vicinity of that bat. So like when Maya was saying, when they were up in the attic and they saw the bat hanging there, they left the attic. They forgot about getting the supplies and equipment for Oshkosh because of the myths that they had about bats, where the bat was simply hibernating. The bat was asleep and he wasn't paying them any attention, and he didn't try to attack them. He may have flown around because he was disturbed, but he wasn't trying to harm them. So as far as killing bats, I would think of that bat as the same as a dog or a cat. It isn't something that you would just outwardly do. If the bat is trying to harm you, then you need to get to protect yourself. But my research tells me bats will never attack people.
All right. Nicole asks, are there such things as albino bats?
It's possible. They have over 1,000 species, and I didn't research all of those. So it's a high possibility, but that's a good research. Google it and you tell me.
Jean asks, what is the common type of bat? What's the most common type of bat?
The most common type of bat is the microbat. Now the particular species is that hognose bat is the most common type that you'll find. It looks like it's got a little hog nose, but the microbat is your most common bat. There are more of those bats than the megabat. And which of the species you'll find most of all, I believe they said was the hognose.
All right. Julia asks, how are bats able to hang upside down?
Well, that was interesting. They're built to hang because they can't stand. And the interesting thing that I found out about that is when they're hanging, blood does not rush down to their heads like when we stand on our heads and blood rushes to our head. It's the natural phenomena in their bodies. They're built to hang. And so they do everything by hanging because that's how they're made to survive, to live. And so it's nothing for them. You'll never find a bat walking all the time because this is a megabat. Megabats walk more, but these microbats, they can't hold the body up because the body is too heavy. And so they just hang. And that's what they do. They're hangers. They hang around.
Right. Let's see. I'm also going to allow some people to raise their hand if they want to ask some live questions.
Okay.
Anything that has not been answered already. While we get some people raising their hand, Yella asks, which is the biggest wingspan and height for bats again?
I found in my research, the biggest megabyte stood 5 feet 7 inches. And its wingspan, in my notes, where did I put it? Its wingspan was, here it is. Its wingspan was almost 12 feet. So that's pretty big, okay? So if you think of a bat that can stand as tall as your brother or your sister, and they spread their wings, I would be scared to stand by that bat, but again, bats aren't created to attack people. It's not what they do. But that was the biggest bat that I saw, and the oldest bat in my research I found had lived 41 years. It was 41 years old when it died.
All right. Let's take from, I'm trying to find somebody that didn't ask a question in the question and answer. And Jucelia, if I said that correct. All right, you can unmute yourself.
What do if you when you have to do the bat box? Do you still have to do it if you live in an area where there are no bats?
Well, it's part of I didn't make up the requirements for the bat honor. I'm just teaching it. So I believe they wanted you to create a bat box to see what it's like to create a bat box and hang that bat box 12 feet above the ground at least and see if it will collect or entice bats to come and house there. And like I said earlier, if they don't come, it's a high possibility that there are no bats in your area. But you still go through the process of learning how to do it. You may not always live in that area. You may end up living other places. where there are more bats. And so rather than to have bats hanging on your trees, if you create bat boxes, they'll be more inclined to live in the bat box because they like living in cluster. They like living close together. And the bat box will provide that for them.
All right. Let's see if there was a new one in the question and answer. Okay, no new one. So I'm gonna give.
I see a question here. It says, do bats have webbed feet? No, bats have toes.
All right.
They have toes.
And I'm gonna allow Rudy, even though I believe they asked a question, I'll let Rudy ask a question live.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question is, how do bats give birth if they don't have a nest? Wouldn't the babies fall?
The bats have their babies in piles, okay, and it's interesting where they place their bats. I found it interesting that regardless as to how many bats are in a particular colony, that the mother always knows where her cubs are. And so in my mind, I'm trying to figure, okay, so if you have 40, 50 mothers in a colony in a location, and everybody's having babies, how do you keep them separate? How do you know? But when I studied the pictures, it looked like when they had their babies, they had them in piles. And they stayed close by near their babies, other than to when they went out to get food and bring food back. They nursed their babies. So they keep their babies close to them, but they know exactly where to go. So their baby bats don't hang right away, but soon thereafter, they train them to hang. And so it's what they do, and they begin to do it.
All right. With that being said, it is 8:25, and actually, let me actually give you one more.
Okay.
Actually, I'll let Nicole raise their hand. Let me allow Nicole to ask her question.
How do bats poop? How do bats use the bathroom if they hang upside down all day?
Okay.
Well, okay, now that's a good question. I didn't research that, but that in my thinking, and this is just my thinking, bats eventually fly. All right. And I think bats know when they have to void their bodies of whatever. In the process of flying, bats don't fly upside down. Birds don't fly upside down. And I'm thinking that they relieve themselves just like birds do. Birds fly in the air, they poop. If you're in the direction of a bird, when they're flying, you're going to get poop on you. And I think that the bats relieve themselves the very same way.
All right. With that, I say thank you to Sister Ramona, Professor Ramona, for giving us the bats honor. She was excellent with the questions. We had an awesome slideshow. The video, when it is sent out, will not have the YouTube videos because of copyright. So you can find the links of those videos in her slideshows. That's how well her slideshow was. So you just have to go to the slideshow, see the link, and there you'll be able to see the video. But what was taught live with Professor Ramona was recorded, and you will see that. So everyone, the chat is now open. But first, before you guys go wild, we want to say thank you to Professor Ramona. If you could do that for us, please. Yes, give a few thank yous, thank yous, thank yous, thank yous. We thank you once again. You did an awesome job with Bible marking, and awesome job with bats. So now we all know bats, and now we know as Pathfinders that all those myths out there are myths. Bats are created by God and they're great animals. They're not necessarily good. They're not to be eaten and they're not necessarily good for pets, but we should love them and appreciate them because they are getting rid of insects. And I love getting rid of mosquitoes. How about you guys? So with that being said, we just want to remind you all that we will be having our honor on Thursday, and that honor will be the Red Alert honor. I am just going to make sure that I have something for you guys to see. It should be coming up soon. All right, everybody. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick. All right, so this Thursday, May 14th at 7 p.m., when we usually have our honors, we are having a movie-styled honor, guys. So feel free to not only bring what you usually bring for your honors, your scarf and your phones or whatever you do to take notes, even though we ask that you don't do it during class. Bring some popcorn because this is going to be a movie-styled honor. I'm sure you guys are going to be excited for that. So that will be this Thursday. With that being said, we are glad to have had you. You guys are filling up the chat with PFLs. We'll give you guys some time after we dismiss for you guys to have some fun in the chat. Feel free to email me at pathfinders@lrcsda with any certificate, worksheet, Zoom link questions, those logistical questions. We are here to serve you there. You will find the slides on the website shortly. You will receive the video of this honor within 24 hours. And follow us on Instagram at LU Club Ministries. Follow us on Facebook at LUCM Academy. You can feel free to search. Feel free to search Lake Union Club Ministries Academy when on Facebook. And lastly, feel free to find us on our website, which you guys already know. That's www.clubministriesacademy.com. So with that being said, I am Coordinator E, and we had Professor Ramona today for the Bats honor, and let us pray for dismissal. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for allowing us to come together to learn. We ask that you be with all the Pathfinders, the professor, all the panelists, and all of us as we separate and get ready for bed, get ready for the rest of the night, and be with us in this life, be with us today, be with us tomorrow, especially during this pandemic. Thank you, O Lord, for this opportunity to learn together. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, Pathfinders, you are dismissed, but you can feel free to stick around a few minutes in the chat. We will supervise it. All right, bye.